All right.
Yes. Vaccination clinic.
And we're live.
All right. Looks like, we'll go ahead and call this board meeting to order for the Southeast Polk School Board for May 20th, 2021. It is 5:30. Karen, can I get roll call?
Handy,
Here.
Crab,
Here.
Fisher,
Here.
Nave,
Here.
Slings,
Here.
Crowell,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
All right, looks like we have a quorum, so we will move right along here. 1B, agenda adoption. Dr. Lovnik, are there any changes to this?
There's one slight change. Item 2B, return to learn, was moved from discussion to action due to the law change last night.
Okay, very well. All right, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Karen?
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes. All right, 1C, district vision and mission. I haven't done this for a while, so I'll go ahead and take it tonight. Here at Southeast Polk, we engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction. Learn, lead, live. All right, 1D, this is the time for public comments. For those that are listening, if you would like to address the board, you can type in and we will take your comments as they come in. Mr. Bacom, have we had any written emails or text messages prior to this meeting?
There have been no public comments submitted to the Google form.
Like usual, we'll go ahead and give our a little allotted time here to see if anybody types. This is where we cue the Jeopardy music. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We do have one. Garrett, if you want to step up, or I guess just state your name and
Good evening, board. My name is Garrett Hall, and I'm here representing as the president of the Southeast Polk Education Association. On behalf of the Southeast Polk Education Association, I want to personally thank you for all the work that you have done for the Southeast Polk community this school year. Your position as locally elected, non-salaried public officials tasked with providing the best learning environment for our community was put to test as we navigated through this global pandemic. You had all of our stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, administrators, and community members at large, asking you to see their side and champion their requests. You were asked to make extremely difficult decisions and engage in difficult conversations while the public watched on. I applaud your dedication to these stakeholders and your leadership to provide the best possible educational setting for our students and staff. I liken this year to steering a boat through a thick fog, never knowing what will appear next, but steadfastly steering us forward and navigating those uncharted waters. I think a thank you is in order as well to Dr. Chlopnik. Your leadership has helped steer the boat, and we thank you for all the time and effort you've put forth with the board to make this year a success. I'm going to be giving you guys some cards here to take a look at, and it's a small thank you from the CPA members to the board. I thank you again for your dedication to public education and to the Southeast Polk community. You guys can carry these around, but
Thank you.
these were signed by some of our members just to sign some things.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
normally we don't respond to public comments, but I think it's only right to do so. One, say thank you.
Thank you.
To you and all the other teachers and staff at Southeast Polk. We're not out of the woods yet, obviously, but we appreciate everything that you guys have done for the students and the families of Southeast Polk. So I'm sure those that are listening can hear us, but if you want to pass on our thank yous back to you guys because we're nobodies. It really runs because of the staff and everybody, the administration and so forth. So thanks again.
Thank you. I know it's a thankless job. It's
Pays not so great.
right. I appreciate all of the work that went into it this year. You're right, we're not out of the woods, but appreciate everything you guys have done.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Well said, Brett.
Did anybody else want to say anything? I mean, I didn't want to.
Good
No,
job,
I
Brett.
think you nailed it.
Sorry.
President Handy,
Yes.
there is a chat in the pane. There's a right CS that would like to speak.
Say that one more time, Kevin.
There is a person that would like to speak that's sitting on the call.
Well, I guess,
I mean, technically, don't we have to for public comments?
It's your fault.
I mean, they get the 3 minutes.
yeah.
I think we're required.
Is everybody okay with that? I'm not-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we
no
haven't,
different
we
than
haven't done it,
everything
but
else,
yeah, if there's somebody on the,
Oh, yeah.
okay. We can't quite make out your name, but if you want to, if you can hear us, you want to state your name, your address of where you live in the Southeast Polk District. And,
Absolutely.
and then what we do is, since individuals that do speak get 3 minutes for the topic. So you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. My name is Connie Wright. I live at 1503 Second Avenue Southwest here in Altoona, Iowa. I have sent 4 of my own children through Southeast Polk, and now you have the pleasure of having my grandchildren. I'd like to just read what I've written, and I'll do it as quickly as possible since I only have the 3 minutes. Thank you, Southeast Polk board members, for allowing me this time to speak today. Although it is not in person as I had hoped, I am hopeful that going forward in the future, I and others will be given that opportunity. First, I would like to thank those board members who stood in solidarity with those of us who believe in parental choice and that parents are able and capable of making the best decisions for their child's education, mental health, and emotional well-being. I would also like to take just a moment to show my appreciation for Mr. Goldsmith, who is a new member of the Southeast Polk family as of this year. He is an assistant principal at the high school, and all I can say is Ankeny's loss is Southeast Polk's gain. Thank you, Mr. Goldsmith, for working with myself and my family to ensure what the best options were for my grandson and for being open to listening and willing to walk alongside us. Next, I'd like to say that I believe I speak for pretty much everybody with stating how difficult and emotionally draining this last year has been. Who would have known that 2020 was going to try to drag itself into 2021? And finally, I'd like to address the parents, grandparents, and community of Southeast Polk. If nothing else, I believe that this last year has taught us importance of knowing who we are placing before us and trusting to make the best decisions for our children and for our families. I have a very wise, not old, but wise friend who told me today, the school board is not your enemy and they are not plotting against you. We just have some who are. I don't believe that there are any truer words spoken, and I encourage in the future that parents and community members become more involved and really get out and vote and research who we are voting for. I myself am guilty of going into a voting booth and seeing what names I recognize without really knowing much about the person's beliefs, how they vote, if they are re-elects, or their feelings on certain issues. I would like to think, did we have kids in the same class? Baseball teams? Do I recognize a name from somewhere else? I mean, Walmart, Hy-Vee, my second homes. I now realize it's more important than ever to get to know the candidates and where they stand. Do they support parents? Will they listen? Where do their priorities lie, etc.? I am encouraging everyone to step out and get more involved in our busy lives. Just take a moment to hopefully attend the board meetings, support the board members in person, or talk with the candidate or a current board member. I know that people often think you should only get involved if there are pressing issues, but sometimes by that time it's too late. There is nothing wrong with going to a board meeting without it having hot topics. Perhaps those are the ones that we should be going to learn how hot topics would actually or potentially be addressed and decided. All
Honey,
I
you
can
have 15 seconds.
All I can say is we definitely don't want situations to rise or happen again as what happened to our children and families in the past year. Get out, get educated, and vote. And I will end this by a partial quote of Glinda told Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. You've had the power all along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Connie.
Connie.
Just before we move along, Mr. Bacom, are there anybody else that's out there that's typing or?
I do not see any other comments.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move right along then. 1E consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for administration on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Karen?
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
yes,
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
All right, very good. Moving on to item 2, old and new business. Confirmation of next meeting, which is June 10th? Or,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
June 10th.
Move to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Karen?
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
yes,
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
All right, 2B, return to learn action item due to our change. So due to last night's change by Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, we are asked to, I guess, basically put that into action, I guess, if that's the easiest way to put it. So do I have a motion for administration's recommendation amending the 2021 return to learn plan to comply with House File 847?
Motion to approve the return to learn action item due to law change.
I have a second.
Second.
Karen?
Well, you gonna do discussion? You want to go straight to voting?
Oh, is there any discussion? Yes, thank you.
So I'm gonna keep this short, and Brett, you already know my position on this. I'm gonna end up abstaining here, not because I disagree with moving the mask mandate. That's law. That's what we'll abide by. My comment is just that this is a dramatic overreach by the state into local control matters. And I'm concerned that this sets a precedent for where does it stop. There was no input sought out from any of us that I'm aware of by any of our local representatives on this. There certainly wasn't by the governor. So it's kind of disheartening to see that the state is moving forward with a one-size-fits-all approach to all education. And it's concerning that if that continues into the future, will they be basing their solutions based on what's good for schools such as Southeast Polk, or that are 4A with 7,000 students? Or are we looking at schools that are A, barely with 50 students in the entire student body? It's unfortunate. And while I have, like I said, no problem with removing the mask mandate, I do have a problem with voting for it because of the action that it is in itself. So that's why I'll be abstaining today. That's it from me.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none. Karen?
Slings,
yes,
Crowell,
Staying.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Motion passes. 2C, this is time, we're gonna have a public hearing for the FY fiscal year 21 budget amendment. It is 5:44 PM. I'll now open the public hearing to receive comments on just that FY 21 budget amendment. Mr. Beckham, are we getting anybody? Any comments on this? Email, text?
I have not received any comments.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I have not received any comments.
Okay, we'll again give it the allotted time here to see if anybody types in for public hearing on fiscal year 21 budget. Anything yet?
No.
Nobody wants to talk to us? All right. I'm shocked. It is 5:46. We will now state the public hearing closed. Item 2D, fiscal year 21 budget amendment. Mr. McCon.
Thank you, President Handy. This is a budget amendment. I sorry about the recommendation. I see I have that still from the previous year, the second and final. This is our only budget amendment for this year. It is regards to increased costs related to the COVID pandemic and also our capital construction projects that the bonds were issued in December of this year and those costs ongoing. Total budget amendment is about $16.7 million. Again, this does not have effect on tax rates for this year.
That's good. Good news. Can you project into next year, though?
We are remaining flat for tax rate for next year.
Awesome. That's a trick question. Any questions for Mr. McCon? All right, hearing none. Karen?
I need a motion.
Need a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the fiscal year?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. All right, now Karen.
Second that.
Adam?
Adam Kroll.
Thank you. Krell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
All right. 2E, we have the fiscal year 22 board meeting schedule. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second, anybody?
I'll second that.
I have a question.
You bet.
When's the reorganization meeting?
It
November
would be
4th?
the November 18th meeting. November
18th.
2nd would be the election.
Vote,
And
okay,
then because we're a multi-county district, there's that 3-week canvassing period, so it'll be the 18th.
okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Karen?
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes,
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
Krell,
Yes.
Okay, 2F, we have math curriculum adoption. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions for administration? Let's see, Dr. Latham, is there, if she have anything?
I guess,
The quotes that you see in the board packet, the first one is for Reveal Math for grades 6 and 7. That is through the publisher McGraw-Hill and was piloted by our 6th and 7th grade teachers. And that is the first quote. The second quote is for 8 through 12 adoption, which includes Envision for grade 8 and Math Excel for 9-12. What you'll notice on there is that that is a draft quote because Math Excel is part of a different company with the companies merge and different branches keep different products. Our salesperson has to get that approved by a higher level of directors. So if that changes within 5% of the final quote, we will bring that back to the board for additional approval.
Then how many years is this for?
For 6 years.
6 years?
Mhm.
So is there any concern like with us having an 8-9 building with having 2 separate math curriculums in the same building?
That's a valid concern, and we visited about that today. I had a chance, Mr. Pettit and I met with the high school math teachers, and while there will be collaboration opportunities with 8-9, the math teachers brought up the value of having constant math program through 8th grade and then beginning a new one when we get to the credit bearing courses that begin with Algebra 1. So looking at 9th grade as an opportunity to transition to the Math Excel digital platform.
Perfect.
I have a question, I guess, or maybe it's more of a statement. I know that some of us, maybe all of us, got some feedback from the secondary math teachers. And I think it was some kind of a miscommunication or something. And it sounds like things, at least, what I heard on the, administration side of it is that it got cleared up. And it's been a busy day, and right before, I just wish I had more time. I sent an email and said, look, did your concerns get addressed? And the reply I got back from the person was, well, I think it's being tabled. So I'm hesitant to vote for this. It's actually, and it's nothing against what the administration is proposing here. I think if I had more time, I could get the confirmation that I was kind of waiting for to vote for it. And I suspect this will pass. Frankly, these quotes, as far as the money, are less than I thought they would be. And maybe that's just because the language arts stuff is more of it, or more expensive or something. So I'm pleasantly surprised by the quotes. And let me ask this, Joellen, just, are you satisfied that everything got communicated when you met with them?
Yes, I am. And I more than encourage you to reach out. What I will share with you is that what it ended up being a little compromise after we visited. I did have some concerns, brought those forward to the team, not concerns, just reservations. And I had 3 of them, and we went through all 3 of them with the team, and I was comfortable. I came back and talked to Dr. Halupnik. Our salesperson was able to get a speedy quote within a very short period of time. So I did tell the group that it could be tabled tonight if I couldn't get a quote back in a turnaround time. And so I just wanted to let them know if it was, it didn't mean that we were ditching the proposal, because there was some miscommunication. I didn't want them to interpret that as we were bailing on it. So, so that would be an accurate comment. That is what I shared, that it's possible that it was tabled. Jen was able to get a quote back to us rather quickly. Again, it's a draft quote rather than a final quote, but that allowed us to move forward with it on the board presentation. And I think we had a good meeting this afternoon, and we talked some things out. We haven't met face to face as often as we normally do, and that tends to skew communication a bit. And this was a good opportunity for all of us to get on the same page.
Thank you. And thanks for your hard work on getting us new material.
And I will say, adoptions are going to look different. Part of my needing clarification is they don't look like they used to. Gone are the days of textbooks for kids, and it's digital platforms and content loaded cartridges. And I just needed to make sure we were learning everything that we could about this model, and I'm satisfied that we did.
Dr. Latham, did you, when you said you met with the high school math department, did you talk about their wanting math Excel and codes for all the students that they work with?
Yes.
Because they felt like the communication wasn't at the best level. And so I just want to make sure that, like Mr. Fisher just said, we haven't had time to talk to any of the high school folks about this. I didn't know it was going to be something we're going to be voting on tonight, but
Yeah, I was surprised. There was an understanding that they weren't getting Math Excel, but there was some misinformation out there in regards to that. And they're very passionate about that product. So understandably, that set off a little bit of a domino effect. But we got all of that resolved this afternoon.
so are you telling us that you when you said compromise, is it that anything we can understand, or I mean, did
My initial proposal was to have Envision for 8-9 and Math Excel for 10-12. And they wanted Math Excel for 9-12 and Envision for 8th grade. Well, 8th grade has always wanted Envision. That has never changed. And I had the same question that I believe Tom asked at the beginning, and they were able to establish a positive rationale as to why 9-12 Math Excel would make sense.
so the compromise was 8th grade would have Envision and 9-12 would have Math Excel?
I had 3 proposals on the table, and one of them is the proposal that you see in front of you. And then another one was 8-9, 10-12. So it was one of the proposals. And then that's the one. I was leaning towards C. They were leaning towards B. And after their rationale, I was comfortable with B.
Now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Envision is really like a textbook that's online for the students. Is that right?
Envision is, and I don't want to get in the weeds too far. Envision and Math Excel come from the same parent company, and they both have Math Excel. Envision has Math Excel in it, just like the Math Excel standalone. The difference being that the Envision has a very structured scope and sequence, and Math Excel gives the teachers the autonomy to match it to their units that they've created.
So another question again is, are we paying for math for Envision for the 9-12 or just the Math Excel?
No, the quote that you see in front of you is Envision for 8th grade and Math Excel for 9 through 12.
Okay, because I just didn't want us to, if they weren't going to use Envision at the 9-12 level, it'd be a kind of a poor use of funds if we were paying for it at the 9-12 level and not using it.
Envision 9-12 was never an option. It was either Envision at 9th or Envision at 8th. Or it was Envision at 8th and 9th, or Envision just at 8th. Sorry, I'm getting that confused.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 9-12 Envision was never on the table.
What do you mean?
Ms. Latham, it's my understanding Envision owns Math Excel, or so that's kind of some of the confusion.
Yes, Pearson owns Math Excel. Savas bought out Pearson, but Pearson kept the standalone product and Savas embedded it in all of their textbook materials. Confusing.
But I guess the main thing, and then I'm not speaking for Rick, but this is what the math teachers want. What you're buying is what they want.
Yes.
Okay. Are you, Rick, you're comfortable with everything? Okay. Any other?
Saying something about the wording?
Oh, that's, I didn't know if it had to say something about Math Excel in there, if the Envision Math Savas was all encompassing,
So
like how we word the.
Yeah. So we make sure.
So Math Excel, if I buy Math Excel through Envision, it costs $18,000 a year. That's why it says Envision at the top. If I buy Math Excel as a standalone, it's $34,000 a year.
What?
for math company. They're not very good at math.
It's-
They are in their advantage. I
Yes.
guess.
Well, yeah.
When companies merge, it's complex. And our representative is helping us navigate those waters.
Excellent.
Dr. Latham, one more question, just for my own sake, and if you already said this, I'd just like you to repeat it. So you did not tell the high school math teachers that this was going to be pulled from the agenda tonight?
I said it was possible it would be pulled from the agenda if I didn't get a quote in time. It would be tabled if I didn't get a quote, but I did.
Is there a consequence if we don't order that, we don't approve that tonight and we do it in the next meeting? Does that put you behind in adoption?
We could easily approve it in June. The end result is I have the publishers coming in on June 3rd for our professional development day to train teachers. If we don't approve it at this board meeting, we won't be able to secure that, but I can always secure it at a later date if you want to follow up on this.
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern is just that we got in this position where there was the miscommunication, and I don't know how that came about, that there is misalignment. Maybe it's the naming of the companies or the way it was proposed, but hopefully in the future, I'm pretty satisfied with the fact that you guys met with them, you addressed it right away, and came to a good compromise, it sounds like, from what I can hear. But just in the future, if there are things that we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen again, because it felt like a pretty drastic measure that we got communicated with versus that going through, what I would say is probably the proper channels. So, and that's not to say that teachers shouldn't reach out to us. They absolutely should, but just want to make sure in the future that whatever we can do to keep things in alignment, that we do that.
Absolutely. And, I'm comfortable with it, but I'm also comfortable with it if you would feel better tabling it and learning more information. So I'm comfortable on either side of the coin.
Yeah, so the Math Excel within the Envision is just as adaptable as like the standalone. Is that kind of what you were saying?
It is the standalone. But I had to purchase it. If I purchased it through Envision, I got a better price.
Okay.
So it's an add-on.
Yeah, so it's really the exact same product though, as far as features and all that.
I didn't hear that last part.
And so it's
sorry.
the exact same product as far as like the features and the adaptability and their customization that they're able to do.
It's the standalone.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Latham? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote on this. Karen?
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
No,
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
yes,
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
No.
Okay, 2G, multi-purpose stadium bid award. I think we have several we come in, so is Mr. Burgon, you're going to start this off?
Yes, I will. Good evening, board. We do have Scott Crawford with RDG, our architect engineer, on the call as well via Zoom. We also have Bill Good, our district rep, on the call. I updated the bid award topic agenda item here late this afternoon. This is our first project of the projects that we have for the bonds. I'm very excited about what we got as far as bid awards for this. We opened bonds on Tuesday. We had 8 bidders for the stadium, which is great. If you recall, back on April 15th, we communicated with the board that we'd expected a bid day estimate of about $20.2 million on the stadium, the multipurpose stadium. The low bid came at $19,345,000. As you can see there within the agenda item, the difference between the high and the low bidder was about $3.325 million. Based on what we expected and what the low bid was, it's about $855,000 less than what we expected at bid day. Great news. In accordance with that, we are able to add in, you can see the alternates 1 through 5. I can list them out here. This would be the sidewalk along Martha Miller Drive on the south side of the drive. That actually will be reimbursed to us by the city of Pleasant Hill. Excuse
We
me?
don't see it. Are you showing it to us? Or just
No,
explain?
just the agenda item, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Alternate number 2 is the maintenance building that will be located on the south side of the stadium grounds. Alternate number 3 is the canopy on the north building. Alternate number 4 is the monument signage. And alternate number 5 are the entry plaza pavers. With all that, all in for hard costs, we're talking $19,808,300. Still less than what we thought for the base bid amount at $20.2 million.
You didn't want to add in more things, or?
Oh, I'm sure there might be something along the way. There were also four other alternate bids, all relating to the field turf, the artificial turf, and also the track surfacing. These were bid alternates in case pricing came high. We would consider lower grade quality for those particular products. But again, due to what came in as far as bids, we will keep the bids. We will keep the high-end products for both the artificial turf and the track, the track on the field. Those are things that were conveyed to us, communicated with us with our coaches, and something we are very happy to maintain and keep.
So Kevin, you know,
Yes.
I've always been a little skeptical of this just because the price tag makes my heart hurt. I'm only 35. I shouldn't be having heart attacks, but this one's going to give me one. But we've budgeted the money. Like you said, it came in right now about $3.5 million under where we initially thought it was going. I'm sorry, 350,000 less, even with these 5 additions to it. What kind of projects are on there that could be added to that, since the money's already kind of budgeted that direction? What types of things are we looking at?
For this particular project, Mr. Krell?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things we have not addressed, which kind of opens up a pocket of money for, is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Okay.
So we were probably would have had to find money within our saved money for that, or sales tax fund for that. But with this opening up, we can use the budget available for this for FF&E.
Second question, the 3 of us are all asking, what is monument signage?
Mr. Crawford, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Can you expand on what the monument signage is?
Yeah, so the monument signage alternate was for some of the signage identification for the venue itself. What we were doing with alternates number 1 through 5 was, with the volatility in the construction market currently, particularly related to some of the material prices, we wanted to have enough flexibility in the ad alternates to be able to manage the base bid budget in case we did have to, on bid day, try and figure out how to save several $100,000. And so alternates 1 through 5 were elements, with the exception of number 1, because I think Kevin and Dirk have kind of walked through the city's partnership on the sidewalk south of Martha Miller Drive. But outside of that, alternates 2 through 5 were really intended always to try and be a part of the project. But we, in the documents for bidding, we actually broke them out as ad alternates in case there was a challenge to the budget after we opened the bids received, to still have the project move forward, that perhaps some of those ad alternates would not be ultimately a part of the project, or things that could be added later, if that makes sense.
So Scott, were these alternates, I assume these were included in the renderings that were given to us initially?
They were included in the renderings. Probably the most notable one, perhaps maybe, was the maintenance building that you may have seen where that was positioned on the site, or the canopy at the north building, kind of that extends over a portion of the elevated plaza that's on top of the building. But yes, all of these were included in the full design of the project. But as we were narrowing down towards the end of design, we wanted to make sure that we left the district enough flexibility that if for some reason there was a 30% increase in steel or concrete or something within the last few weeks leading up to bidding, that we still had some way to manage that after we opened the bids, if that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
Mr. Crawford.
It sounds like Rick might.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Crawford, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Krell, and specifically answering your question about monument signage, This would be the signage that goes on top of the video board. And also, if you recall, during the renderings, there was a ram in the entry area. I think that was part of the monument signage that we're referring to.
That's correct.
So I only got two more and then I'll be quiet, I promise. Maybe. First one, you said we're getting that, I know. We're getting the sidewalk money back from the city of Pleasant Hill, is that correct?
That is correct. In agenda item number 2H is our first step for this. This is an easement as part of our discussions with the city of Pleasant Hill. That money will be reimbursed to us
In full or in part?
in full.
So we're actually quite a bit further. I mean, that's another 181,000.
Correct.
It's a good chunk. So last question, tell me about, let me see, where'd it go? Sorry, Graphite Construction Group. Have they done work like this in this area before? What do we know?
Mr. Crawford, Mr. Good, I'd let you tackle that question.
Yeah, Bill, do you want to answer that, or would you like me to? I'm happy to, or if you want to share some thoughts.
Bill, if you're talking, you're on mute. Scott, go ahead and start the discussion and Bill can jump in.
Sure, yeah. To answer the question on graphite, they're a contractor that is made up of a number of staff and owners that have been around the Des Moines area for a number of years. RDG has had a previous relationship with the previous company prior to graphite being formed, had done several projects with them. We have reached out to them and we're able to provide the district with a list of their subcontractors that they're anticipating using. And they even committed to who the superintendent on the job is going to be. I have personally worked with that individual on a couple of projects over the last probably 15 years and have had good experience working with him. Some of you may get a chance to meet him during the construction project. His name is Seamus Spain. He's been with the company over 20 years. And I think that a lot of what it'll come down to is just managing the expectations on both ends of the project to make sure that we're able to get the district a great project in the end on time and on budget. And so we're working through with Bill Good right now to put together the initial information for the pre-construction meeting, which we've got tentatively scheduled depending on the outcome of tonight, to kind of walk through the expectations on communication, time frame, and timeliness of submittals and responses and updates back and forth between the contracting team and the district's team. So hopefully that answers your question. Bill may have some more narration to add to that as well. He's worked with the company in the past as well.
Scott, do you know if Gary?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Bill, we can hear you.
Okay, yes, I too have worked with individuals that lead this company on a number of different projects. It's basically a reorganized company, as companies often do. They are definitely the lowest responsible bidder. And through discussions with Graphite, they have assured us that they will be able to meet the expectations of this particular project.
Bill and Scott, Brett Handy here, if you can't tell who's talking. I've got a few concerns with this. One, obviously, is the first thing is the difference in the bids. I mean, we're from the low bid to the next bid, and I'll just point out for those that are listening that may not see this. So the first, the lowest bid is 19,345,000. The second is 20,334,000. That's a difference of $989,000, and that's even from a guy that from Bondurant. But I gotta throw that in there when we do math, but don't have the quality education in the math curriculum that South East Polk has. But anyway, I digress. So $989,000 difference is obviously it's an eye opener for me, because I'm thinking, why would a company come in so low? And I get it. I mean, they're trying to get the job, but almost $1 million less than what, and 800, and I think Kevin, you said 835,000 difference between our
885,000 between the estimate.
885,000. All right. So I'm thinking this obviously sparked some interest for me. So I did a little research, and I guess I'm kind of concerned that this company reformed 6 months ago. They used to be called Roshan, if I'm not mistaken. And Roshan on Iowa Courts Online is in a lawsuit with Des Moines, the city of Des Moines, for a fire station that they built. And I get it, contractors getting into lawsuits and stuff, but I find it interesting. And then I have a friend that's in the construction field, and just reached out to him and asked him, what is this? Tell me a little bit about this company. Do you know anything? And the question is, well, make sure you have, some extra money, because change orders. And I even looked through that. Been on the school board long enough where we've built some stuff, and we've always had change orders. So that doesn't bother me. But I guess the thing that bothers me is the $989,000 difference from the other bid, where the other 4 bids after that are within 200,000. You got 2,334,000 to 20,334,000 to 20,500,000, 20,570,000, 20,640,000, 20,800,000. And then the next 2 are higher, which usually when you get a higher bid, they're probably not interested because they're too busy. But those are at 22,475,000 and 22,670,000. So I'm just throwing this out there that I don't want to get into a situation where we have so many change orders. I want quality work. And I don't think it $989,000 difference between the next 4 bids that are really close, that it's going to go as smooth as what they think. And I get it. You're throwing in the low bid to get the job. I looked at some of their projects on paper. I mean, it looks like they've got some quality things. I understand they're doing Dallas Center, Grimes schools, or a couple projects over there. I think one was a school. But Bill, you've worked with them, and I understand they've had an issue with Des Moines at some point.
Yeah, I worked with them on a number of projects. On one project, we had a timing issue that we had to resolve with them. It did get resolved, but they had done a number of successful projects also. So again, it was one project, and but ultimately got resolved.
Can you share with us that, with your experience working with them, what that is? I mean, you're saying it's a tiny thing, but I don't know what that means. And I take this very seriously. I'm not trying to be, but we're spending $20 million on a project. I think the board is owed, and the administration and the district taxpayers and everybody is kind of owed a little bit about this. So can you tell me about the little problem that you guys had in Des Moines?
He didn't say tiny, he said timing. Timing, Timing.
Timing?
Timing. It was a timing issue.
Is that what you said, Bill? I didn't.
I thought it was tiny too.
Yes, it was. It was timing. They struggled at the end, meeting the completion date, and had to bring extra people in to turn the project around appropriately. So yes, timing.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you. So those are my concerns. I'm not overly excited about it. I think with, I get it, you know, companies have issues, they change some people. But I don't think it's fair to say that this company's been in, when you look at their website, they said they've been in business for 27 years. That might be people working for the company have been in business for 27 years, but that doesn't mean this company's been in business for 27 years. My understanding is it's 6 months that this company's been formed. And I get it. Again, you can bring talented group of people together and form a business in 6 months and from different areas, but there's just a lot of things that right now in my mind are standing out that I'm not excited about the low bid for those reasons. I don't, like I said, I don't want to get into a change order issue, whether it's timing that they don't get it done or whatever. We've already got enough issues trying to get materials. Again, the low bid is kind of, I'm just not excited about that. And if the other bids were a little bit farther apart, I may not be so hesitant on it, but that's all I have for right now.
I,
Can I,
Lori, you gonna say something?
I was just going to make the motion so that we have the motion made.
Go ahead.
I would like to just add something first, Lori. I've worked with Bill Good for well over 20 years with the Des Moines schools. He's very qualified. Bill, you do a great job. I'm glad you're helping us with this project. But I also at the same time hope that we got the opinion of Gary Haynes. Did anybody reach out to him for his input on this bid? Seems like he would know a lot about construction companies. Anybody answer that?
He did not come to the bid opening.
Okay. But did he get shared? Did he get a chance to look at this information? You know? I mean, Brett did a lot of homework on graphic construction, which I give him credit for. I just want to know maybe Gary Haynes' thoughts, if he knows that company or anything about him. I might be the only one with that concern, but he does do a great job for us.
I think that's good. I mean, I like where Brett's coming from. Like we think a lot of input, I think would be good. It's almost like a resume, right? It's like seeing the resumes for these companies. Cause I'm feeling what Brett's feeling as far as the lowest bid's not always the best bid. And it's concerning when you don't have.
Yeah. And again, the projects, again, I know you can form a group of people together, call it a different name. And, you know, we take people's words that the bad apples that caused the problems or whatever, not sure why they're in the lawsuit with Des Moines. But obviously that's tough when somebody's in a lawsuit of getting into business with somebody that's in a lawsuit. I struggle bringing that up, but it's public record. It's things that are on the books. It's things that we need to know about. And when you look at some of the other groups, Edge, they're they've been around a while. Harold Pike Construction, they've been around a while. Hinkle, they're a little bit higher than what we can go, but they've got, I mean, it looks like they've got some good quality work. I think, you know, I like the board just to consider, you know, whether, I'm not asking to table it necessarily, but one thing that we didn't get these bids out to the whole board until an hour before, and nobody's had really time to research it.
I will say this, Brett.
I took a couple hours before. I knew I had some of the numbers before, and so I was able to research a little bit sooner. So go ahead, Lori. I'm sorry.
With this bid, with the low bid, we're able to add quite a bit of things that we had to remove in the planning stage. And those are some important things that we can add back in with this bid. that I think will accent the project more so. We did a lot, I think we did 3 meetings where we were taking away millions of dollars, and this gives us some add back ins to the design.
No, and I get that, but I don't want to, risk you're going to have change orders, but I don't want to risk $989,000 worth of change orders because whatever the reasons.
But Scott and Bill have both said they've worked with these people before.
I'm just giving my opinion.
I know.
I'm stating the facts that I researched. Nobody has to agree with them. I'm just putting it out there because it's a $20 million project. It's not like, we're buying a sack of corn across the street from a different vendor, I mean, whether you get good quality or not, I mean, you want to make sure that $20 million for the taxpayers is being spent wisely and by a company that, a reputable company that maybe not in a lawsuit. If we could learn more about what that is about, I would love to hear it. Scott has done a great job getting us to this point, and we appreciate all the hard work, but the low bid in this one is just, I'm struggling with it.
President Handy, this is Kevin. If I can interject.
Yep.
One thing subjective and one thing objective. Subjectively, RDG and the team that we've had for the architect engineer in this project has been exceptional. I would lean on them during the construction process to do what they need to do as far as making sure that this particular GC is doing the work they need to do in line with our specs. The other piece of that, Mr. Good, as you know, has many years of experience through working with school districts and with construction companies like this. Objectively, from a regulation standpoint, we have to accept the lowest responsible bidder because this is a capital project and we are a public entity. They are responsive because they did report to the bid opening on time and had all the applicable forms, etc. And we judge reasonable based on whether or not they can get performance bonds and insurance certificates for this particular project. Not saying that it can't be challenged, but if they were to get that, which I assume they will be, it would be difficult for us to not accept them as the most responsible bidder on this project.
I guess, how is it responsible when you're that much lower? I mean, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that because it's frustrating for me that the one that
Yeah, Brett.
The lowest bill.
Brett, this is Scott. One thing that I might offer too, and this isn't intended to address your concerns related to the lowest bid contractor, but just the spread of the bids.
Mm-hmm.
It's not uncommon for us to see on projects of this magnitude where there might be a cluster of 3 or 4, or in this case, 5 bids that are kind of in the middle that are within, plus or minus a percent or so of the construction estimate, and then have one or more that are, just 10% or 20% over the estimate, and then occasionally have one that is 5 or 10% under the estimate. And that's what happened in this case. And it could be, we could speculate all day long about why there's a bid that's $1 million lower than the median field of bids here. But there could be a variety of reasons why. Maybe they're using different subs that have lower cost overhead. It could be that in trying to I'm not even going to speculate because there's so many different market impacts on the general contractors that could impact what their profit market up is on a job. But it's not uncommon to see spreads like this. They're actually pretty tight if you throw out the high 2 bids, which are probably much like what you said, 2 contractors that would love the work, but didn't really need it in order to fill their next 18 months of revenue. I think that what Kevin said is that it'll be the responsibility of the team, meaning district representatives and design and engineering team representatives, to ensure that the contractor is fulfilling their obligations on the project if you choose to award the bid. And that's really where setting the expectations early and then holding people accountable to those expectations come into really important consideration as you go into construction. I don't know if any of this is helping answer your questions or not, but.
No, and Scott, I appreciate it. I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from, because this is nothing against it, where we've come with the project. It's just making sure that we are good stewards of the money that's going out. And when you have some red flags, that there may not be major red flags, but there are little red flags for me on this. And I just want to make sure that the board is aware of those, that our taxpayers are aware of them. And then it is going to be Bill's job to make sure that everything's going through. So for me, there's a lot at stake here. And I want to make sure that everything's straight up front. I'm not, if the board desires to go with this, I'm not standing in the way. It's just more about getting things out in the open and making sure we're all on the same page going into it, because $20 million. If this project does not turn out, we've had a couple projects over the years that we still have problems with, whether a high school, Clay Elementary, other things that, probably way before me, that we don't want to have to deal with them 10 years, 15 years down the line like we have been with some of them. So that's my point of bringing this up. It's not to knock anybody down. It's all common knowledge. It's out there for anybody to research. But what you said, I appreciate it. Makes sense. And I'm going to let anybody else that wants to talk go. So I appreciate it, Scott.
Thank you, Brett. I see Gary Haynes is on the screen. Can we get his opinion? He is our Buildings and Grounds Director.
Can he tell us what size the projects they've done are, if Gary's on the call?
Well, I guess make sure we clarify what have they done as graphite, not as Roshan. If we could make sure we clarify the projects that this group has done. This is a different group. That's one of my concerns is Roshan was the company before, and 6 months ago, they put another team together evidently and came up with another name. So what has graphite done would be the question.
This is Gary Haynes. I'm on the line.
Go ahead, Gary.
I'm not familiar with this company. I've not used them in the past, so I couldn't give a good judgment on a recommendation 2 or 4, 4 or not, but Mr. Good's familiar with them, and I'm assuming that he's feels comfortable with them. He knows how to deal with those types of companies and familiar with probably the people that are in this company. I do understand red flags. I mean, if you take a low bid and you have another $1 million of increases, that depends. Sometimes you're going to have those no matter what, unforeseen things, weather conditions, whatever we may run into. But the thing is, the only thing you'd have to worry about is if you hear something like, oh, we forgot to include this, we need an increase, then that's not our fault. They should have anticipated that. So I would not be against them. I'm just saying I'm kind of neutral on this because I'm not that involved, but if they can do it for that, the more power to us and them.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
I would like to make the motion that when everybody's done talking, I don't want to cut anybody off, so.
I'll make sure and let Lori make her motion.
Yeah, go ahead, Lori.
She's been on the board a long time, so she get it. But Scott, I have a question for you. I want to make sure I understand. You're with RDG, right? You're the architect?
He is. Yes.
That's correct. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, I want to make, if I saw your face, I'm sure I'd recognize you, but I want to make sure, I mean, you talked about you're kind of the go-between. I understand that. I don't have the contract in front of me, but you're, as far as, I get that you're the go-between, but you're in our corner, right? I mean, part of your job is to make sure this contractor is doing what they're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. You're our client. The district is our client. We are here to help represent the district's, the owner's interest in the construction of this project, much like Bill is. Yeah. And Gary, I mean, yes, no, we have no contractual tie to the contractor whatsoever.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember now, you have worked with this company before or some?
I have personally worked with individuals from this company, not as they've reorganized under Graphite.
Okay. So not any of
Under
the
the former
individuals,
company.
not with the individuals that are there with the existing entity.
No, he's worked with the individuals, just he worked with them before they were with Graphite.
Okay, I understand.
Yep, that's correct.
Do you know, and this is just, again, I mean, we just got these names. I mean, and I get it, you know, companies reform and people retire and come in, buy out. I mean, do you know what the nature of this change was? I mean, from the people that you've known?
The change of
the company,
the previous
the
company
name or whatever.
now this company operating under the name of Graphite.
Yes.
Is that the question, Gary?
Yes.
I don't know
Okay.
circumstances or details.
All right. That's
the only recognition that I do know is when we asked the president, who was a representative from Graphite, submitting the bid and answering questions in the last 48 hours. Since the bids were submitted, we asked them to provide a list of subcontractors, and then we asked them who their project superintendent was going to be assigned to the project. That individual is the individual that I have had previous work experience with on other projects over the last 15 years.
And as far as
almost 20, actually, I think. Yeah.
And as far as the subs that were listed, were you satisfied with those names or?
Yeah, I think there weren't any red flags. We reviewed it. Yeah, we're familiar with them. Most of them we've worked with on other projects. The earthwork contractor was one that we had not worked with yet, but I know of the company.
Okay.
Scott, can you disclose who they are?
Oh yeah, I don't have the list in front of me, but I believe we sent that on to Bill and Kevin and Dirk. Yes, at least the contractors that they've identified thus far. I don't have that list in front of me though. I apologize.
All right. I see both Dirk and Kevin are looking for it. So.
And you can get those later. I mean, if
I'm fine. I
anybody else
do
is-
know that this project's going to take significant earthwork, so that obviously is an important one. But if you're comfortable with let me ask this. This might help me get you there. Are you comfortable that they understand? I guess they're the ones signing off on this stuff. They understood the bid and what they're bidding on, and you didn't see any holes and that kind of thing.
Know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the documentation affirmation process with the bidding is that they've not only signed that they've reviewed the documents in their entirety, but they also received addendum 1 and addendum 2 that were issued during bidding. They acknowledged they received and understood the information in there. Short of that, I don't think there's any way for us to guarantee that any of the contractors are, what they're getting into.
Sure.
We did ask the age-old question of the contractor, are you comfortable with the bid you submitted now that you've seen bids from others? And they said, absolutely. I think their exact words were, we really got aggressive at this one because we want this project.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
I deal with contracts. I don't deal in construction contracts. So
yeah.
Nor have I ever built been involved in building a $20 million structure. So your role of maybe a little hand holding or go between, that'll be appreciated. Thank you.
It's I can only imagine this will be a big portfolio piece, Gary. This will be a nice a nice job to stick in your portfolio.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So being aggressive with the bidding, I mean, that makes sense as far as
True.
it's a pretty cool
Yeah,
project.
absolutely.
Yeah, especially if you're just kind of like restarting out again.
And I did see on their website, they did have some 20 million, they weren't athletic facilities, but you know, big, I think one was a big school building. I forget, Waukee, maybe one of theirs.
Right. Doesn't carry the Southeast Polk name.
Hmm.
It didn't carry the same.
No, that's
Southeast Polk
right.
name.
And
That's
they
right.
want that name on their portfolio for sure.
That's right.
Anybody else have anything for Scott or Bill or Gary or Edmund?
Did you actually make your motion, Lori?
No, she has not.
She wants to do it.
She's been waiting
I think-
patiently.
Well, we're waiting.
All right, Lori, do it.
So you guys are done talking. I can make the motion to approve the recommendation to accept the bid, the low bid for the Southeast Polk Football Stadium.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Just tell me that motion wasn't from the bathroom in the airport.
Don't be popping any champagne there on.
No, it's in the business center of the Admiral Lounge.
I think she joined this meeting from the airport
Yeah.
just to.
Just to make
Yes,
that-
that is correct. I'm here for 6 hours.
All right,
Oh.
Karen, I think we're ready to go, Karen.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Absolutely.
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Respectfully, no. All right, looks like we have, that motion passes. 2H, set public hearing for easement multipurpose stadium with city of Pleasant Hill.
You see Lori's face?
President Handy, this is an item I alluded to before. This is in conjunction with the multipurpose stadium project. These are easements relating to the sidewalk that's along the south side of the Martha Miller Drive, the creek area, Spring Creek area on the water stream, and also the underpass under Martha Miller Drive from the high school. This is just setting the public hearing for the June 10th board meeting.
June 10th. All right.
Just to jump in on that one, the city of Pleasant Hill has already approved this because they can do it in one meeting. We have to set the public hearing before we can actually do that. So it takes 2 meetings.
Any other questions or comments for staff on this? Hearing none. Karen?
Do we have a motion?
No,
Or-
we need a motion.
Yeah,
Move
right.
to approve.
thank you.
Second.
Now, Karen. You there, Karen?
Dramatic pause.
okay, Nave,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes,
One more.
Crab,
Yes.
Crow. I said Crow.
You already said
Oh,
me.
that was Crow.
Did I say yes for you then?
I don't know.
Did you?
Sorry, guys,
Yeah.
I lost my list.
Well,
that's all right.
tracks.
Going off of memory.
We can do that again if you'd like. Just to clarify.
Nave,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Slings,
yes,
Crab,
Yes.
Handy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 2I, 2021-22 staffing plan, phase 3B. Is this Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Evening, board. At our last meeting, the kind of the reasons and rationale were rolled out, and tonight's meeting is left to all of you for some discussion, any questions, and then a vote on the addition of 2 special education teachers at Spring Creek, both due to an increase in students served via IEP.
Move to approve.
Second.
Carl first, Sling second. Thank you.
What were you gonna say, Rick?
Nothing.
Mr. Horton, this was the one that we kind of gave you the nod ahead of time for.
Yes,
Did you
sir.
have- Did you have some good luck and any recruiting ahead of time or?
You know, truly, I did not look. I haven't looked yet, but I can look and shoot an email to the board.
Oh,
See if
that's
there
all
was anything gained there.
Any questions for Mr. Horton on this?
Nope.
All right, hearing none. Karen?
Slings,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
All right, item 3.
you.
Topics for discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3, topics for discussion. A, superintendent's report.
You bet. I'll give you a few brief updates here and then open it up for questions. Some good news. Over the last week, we've had the annual Dollars for Scholars evening where 187 students were recognized and over $225,000 in scholarships were awarded. So thank you to the donors and congratulations to the recipients. We've also had the annual academic honors assemblies over the last week, culminating in the senior honors assembly just yesterday. Again, highlights of the year for sure. Last Friday, we had the annual Tech Expo, where we were a little bit smaller than normal years, but still had over 300 projects. And to give you an idea, a normal year is about 800 projects. So they were pleased, just under half, but still some really good scholarship money awarded, and some projects like every year that I wish I could have bought. One of them was going back to Council Bluffs, a fire pit that I'm still thinking about. Talented kids. We're also in the season of retiree events. Always a bittersweet time, but also a great time to kind of smile and reminisce and send people off in a real positive way. And speaking of that, somebody next to me might know this, but our seniors' last day is tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So with that, I won't go through all the normal meetings that are on that list, but be happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
3B, monthly financials. Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, President Handy. Monthly financials through the month of April. Just real quickly, as always, general fund up 9.7%, expenditures up 7.3% through the month of April, mainly due to COVID costs, wage increases, etc. Nothing really stands out. All funds were up 114.8%, mainly due to bonds, but without the bonds, we're talking 7.2% increase in revenues and 10.6% increase in expenditures. Anything specific within the monthly financials, which I know you all read twice, I'd like to answer them now. If you have questions after the meeting, I take those questions via email as well. Just a few other things within our offices. We have started our interim audit period, so our auditors will be on site the middle of June. They're doing some work right now remotely. We're navigating some of the insurance changes. If you haven't heard from our staff, we've worked with UMR and also American Fidelity, setting up one-on-one meetings with those staff, and those are going well. And then just this afternoon, we met with DE through a webinar and the use of the ESSER 3 funds that will be received by the school district in the tune of about $4 million. Additional guidance provided by DE, additional work that we'll have to do on our side, but all good things. All in all, regarding COVID funding, our gear money that went out for connectivity, ESSER 1 pot, ESSER 2 pot, ESSER 3 pot, all those combined so far is about $5.7 million we'll receive from the Fed government. Any other questions or any questions?
So bottom line, the Fed money will make up a lot, but not all what we spent.
Correct.
I will jump in and we'll talk about this more. One of the things that was shared at the DE meeting today is there are some new federal guidelines that we'll need to follow as we go through the process. And some of those will involve involving the public. So it could be public hearings, public meetings, things like that. And so it could involve board meetings. We're still waiting for some specific guidance.
With the money, strings are attached.
Always.
All right, anything else for administration on that? Or Kevin, Mr. Pecan?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 3C, we have 2021-22 handbooks. Looks like Mrs. Christensen's up and ready to go.
Hello, board. Yes, I'm Jeannie Christensen. Thank you for your time. In your packet, there was a document that had the suggested changes for our student handbook for the 2021-22 school year that were provided to me by our principals and directors for your review. And so just as a quick reminder, on the left-hand side, the left column is what's currently in the handbooks. And then on the right-hand side, I lost you guys for a second. On the right-hand side, then are these suggested changes. So if something is in red, that means that they are suggesting to delete it. If it is in blue, then it's a change of some words. And if it's green, it means it's a completely new addition. So are there any questions about any of the suggested changes?
So, go ahead.
I had a question, just to let you know, I actually do read this stuff, and you might not be able
Thank
to
you.
answer it. I see the headwear section
Yes.
is being deleted. And yeah, I mean, I can remember, boy, you know, I won't mention his name, but the principal that was there when I was there, if you walked in with a hat, you were getting it slapped off the top of your head. And I know we probably don't do such things now, but is there a reason why that's going out? And maybe it's put in somewhere else. I don't know, but.
Oh, we lost Gene.
Yeah, that's a good question because we've had issues in the past with bandanas and
Right,
hoods and
hoods and.
That would be actually a question for Mr. Pettit. I'm
Okay.
not sure if he's
I thought it might
on.
be.
And I'd be more than happy to, if he's not, I'll follow up with him and get some information back to you.
That's fine.
yeah, that'd be good because that has been a concern in the past. It would be nice to know. I know they changed a few things wasn't it a few years ago that we added some stuff in there for that bandana thing, if I'm not mistaken. So it is curious.
Yeah. We thought he was in, he's showing up as in, but he's not there. So
That's okay. I think the board okay if they get back to us on that. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a big reservation on that too. Because that, to me, it falls under like safety and security. I mean, we had an incident earlier where we had 5 kids from outside come in. They all have their hoods up now and they got all the way into the high school and everything else. So, I mean, to me, it's a huge, like a safety thing where if you don't know who you're talking to or who's walking through, and it's, we
Yeah.
know our kids. So,
Yeah.
and that could have been quite the event. So,
I will reach out to Mr. Pettit and get an answer back to you.
Thank you.
And that'll be up for discuss or vote next time.
yeah, at the
Okay.
June meeting.
So we got some time.
Correct. Yes.
Absolutely.
And also, we're now allowing, looks like we're going to allow kids to carry their backpacks. And so I know we allowed it this year because of the different COVID protocols and trying to make smoother, but we're putting that into permanent practice. Is that what I'm reading here?
Yes.
do we not have enough lockers to sign every kid like they're individual? Isn't that kind of some of it too that played into that?
Yeah, I remember discussing on that before too.
Yeah.
Jordan's like, yeah. there's not-
Yeah. So it's like, yes, we actually need kids to kind of have a backpack
Right.
locker.
Well, and if we're,
So,
at what point do we just look at doing away with lockers and retrofitting those to be classrooms instead?
That's been a discussion for a couple of years here. of at least open space or open, yeah.
I know from working at other schools, like the new Johnston High School has a ton of those open, just kind of socialization areas for study halls or whatever in between classes. So it wouldn't be necessarily a bad use of that either, if possible.
Do you just carry your coat with you then, like during the winter? I guess that would be the.
They don't wear
If you
coats.
wear it.
Wait till you have
Yeah,
high
you bet,
school
Chad.
kids.
Yeah, we're
They're
good.
not gonna wear a coat.
You're
so old.
My freshman's been wearing shorts all year.
Good luck with that one.
Can we ask Jordan's opinion?
Yeah, we don't wear coats. I'd say most of the time, especially this year, we don't really use lockers, and since my freshman year, we've been carrying around our backpack, so it would not be a huge change.
Off the mat.
Yeah, for us.
Board, this is Steve Pettit. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
I apologize. I was on the Zoom link or the face. Regardless, I was watching the whole time and I've now got connected. So I've missed the last probably 2 minutes of questions. So if we could start over and ask any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Are we allowing hats?
What we've done this year is we have allowed hats. Probably 2 years ago, we took the tight-fitting head coverings out of our policy because we've had some students that have had some ethnic or cultural kind of regular wears of those types of things. So for the last couple of years, we've allowed tight-fitting headwear, but we have not allowed hats. This year with COVID, we did allow hats. And the main reason why we hadn't allowed them in the past was because there was a concern that they would be disruptive to the educational kind of environment in school. This year, we did not have a single disruption due to headwear, due to hats of any side. So in conversation with other principals in the CIML, we've kind of taken the approach more of a college when it comes to hats in the building. And that's why we're wanting to remove it from the policy.
I assume, I don't want to monopolize, I'm sorry. I assume we'll follow dress code rules in general, so nothing offensive, nothing gang related, nothing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if somebody were to wear a hat or any clothing for that matter that would disrupt the educational environment, we would have them either take it off or change clothes or however that would work.
This might sound silly, Steve, but so when we talk about cultures and stuff, I obviously want to respect that, but if somebody wore a sombrero to school, which is obviously they're large, we wouldn't allow that, would we? I mean,
we would most likely consider that to be a disruption, you know, in a classroom, seeing around something like that. Yeah, that would be something that we would say it's disruptive to other students.
So, yeah, and I'm trying to see, I see where you're coming. I'm trying to get on the same page with you because I'm trying to, since we started this conversation, I'm trying to figure out what were those issues we had exactly that we added some stuff in there and I can't remember. Do you remember that conversation, what we added in there last time?
Well, we didn't add anything. We changed it. There was the word, I think, no bandanas. I think that was a word in the handbook 3 or 4 years ago. We changed it to, we did allow tight-fitting head coverings because, again, from a cultural or ethnic standpoint, we wanted to be inclusive of all of our students. You know, honestly, the only issues we've had in the last couple of years when it comes to any sort of hats is people wearing like ball caps in the building. And when we have either an administrator or a campus monitor asking them to remove the hat, then there could potentially be some sort of a confrontational situation. So the only time we ever had an issue was with a hat was when we were trying to get someone to take it off in a hallway, which wasn't disrupting the educational environment. We haven't had an issue with a hat in a classroom that I can recall in my history at Southeast Polk.
Yeah, I guess as long as they're respectful, if I mean, is there an opportunity for a teacher to say, hey, no hats in my room? I respect your, you know, I'm not talking religious piece of it because obviously we don't go there, but if say a teacher just didn't want hats in their room, kind of like their phones, do they have that option or is it pretty much straight across the board? We're going to allow it and as long as they don't disrupt.
I would say we don't want to have individual teachers having individual class rules that are different from the building rules.
Okay.
You know, again, I don't think this is very widespread. Again, this year we've allowed it. I walked through the commons during a large study hall the other day, and we had about 150 students in the study hall, and there were about 9 people in the entire building, entire commons area that had anything on their head, whether that's a hat, whether that's a hood up. You know, it's a pretty low percentage of students that are currently doing this, and we've allowed it all year.
Yeah, this is kind of like the tattoos being shown in a workplace type thing conversation over the years. It's something that, you know, is it time to, I mean, people dress how they dress and we accept it for kind of how they are. It's no different than having pink hair. Or I just want to make sure that we can differentiate the two between a hat, the sombrero, those type of things that we know are purposely being worn to be a distraction or something like that. And I guess I'm struggling a little bit on how we can do that, because what might be offensive to me or a distraction may not be a distraction to somebody else. So I guess I'll just say that. I mean, I'm not gonna stop it. We got to try it. If it worked this year and you think it, I know I had a couple conversations with some people that said with the masks and the hats were kind of trouble because you didn't know who you're talking to, and they'd have their hats way down low and then their mask way up, and all you could see is their eyes. And, you know, you couldn't tell if they were happy, mad, or sad. And but I'm a hat wearer, so
right.
And I know for some of the older generations, even older than me, that is disrespectful to wear a hat in the building. So I want to make sure, one, our teachers are, I mean, and I know it's not really a democracy when it comes to that stuff, but trying to get the older generation to understand those things. So.
Right. And I would say, you know, Mr. Handy, is, you know, we as administrators have to use administrative discretion all of the time.
Yep.
And I think if we look at a situation where if we have a complaint from a teacher that something is disruptive in their opinion in the classroom, then we're going to minimize the disruption. Again, we don't want to get into power struggles with kids. I think everybody loses when we get into a power struggle. But if something is truly disruptive, then we're going to eliminate the disruption. So if the sombrero or some other hat in a teacher's opinion is becoming disruptive, we'll communicate with the students, and I think we can handle it very easily.
Yeah, and I know the elementaries, they have hat days. Do you guys have an actual hat day that you guys do at the high school?
In years past, during like homecoming week and things like that, we would have allowed, you know, headwear, but we didn't have like a fundraising hat day. But no, you're right. Elementary schools do that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the point I was getting at, if you did, would sombreros be allowed on a hat day? But I guess you don't have them, so it's not. So.
And again, our metrics would pretty much be the disruption to the educational environment.
What about the Spanish class? Would that be okay?
That's true. That's
Wow.
true. That is true. See what kind of things we get into, Steve?
I tell you.
I know. Crazy.
Handy. I'm just thankful. I'm thankful you wear a hat as often as you do.
It kind of blinds people, so they understand. That's why I wear hats. Anyway, I think we're digressing. I'm in a silly mood right now, so I don't know.
All right.
Why. Anyway, thank you, Steve. Anybody else have questions for Steve?
Yes, of course.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, Steve, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. So
Okay.
I agree with you that our kids are mature enough. I don't worry about their causing disruptions as far as their headwear. I do worry about safety and security and
Sure.
kind of relaxing those measures right now. So I think at a time when our child's mental health has had an uptick as far as problems, that's documented right now, that it's kind of a rough time to kind of relax standards as far as safety and security. And that's just more like being able to cover your face with a hoodie or looking down with a hat, just those little things
Sure.
even walking by where we would normally recognize a kid right away, and then not being able to just do that instantaneous recognition when they walk in. Just, it kind of makes me nervous with kids going in and out. And we had that event earlier this year, right? Where we had 5 students come into our building. students from
I
outside.
I don't recall specifics, but I'm sure there's been a time when we've had a student or two that have come in from other buildings that have been recognized, whether they're right in the comments or fairly quickly.
Right. And that was, I mean, because it was like under the guise of like hoodies. You know what I mean? So it took a while to recognize them. And they were like problematic as far as that goes. So I mean, that's a situation where I think without like a hoodie or a hat, I don't think that would have, I think we would have caught that like at the doors or right away. And I'm thinking, I mean, this is more like high school stuff rather than elementaries that worry about our little kids walking in as far as problem causing. But I think in our high school, I don't know, it concerns me greatly just as far as safety goes. So, I mean, I don't mind the kids wearing hats. I wish they could, but I just think as far as safety, anything that covers your face where I cannot recognize you as a teacher or an administrator as you walk by me, unless I look you straight in the face, is not. I don't know. It's just not something I'm really willing to let go right now, as far as because of things that have happened around the country. And to me, we're still on kind of high alert as far as our kids and our safety within our building.
I guess, Steve, our main doors and stuff are all cambered, right?
Correct.
And then about most of our side doors cambered.
Yes. Yeah, we have majority of the hallways, entryways outside of the buildings covered with security cameras.
And this is more of a statement. I know when some locations, so I'm concerned with, obviously with the mask. I'll give Prairie Meadows an example. We went out there to watch the horse race the other day, and maybe it was a couple weeks ago now, but when you walked in, you had to actually lower your mask so the cameras could identify your face. So I'm wondering if maybe that's something that, they show their faces, they're walking in and then put their hat on. And that way, if we had a suspicious person walking around, at least they could go back to the cameras and look at and identify that person coming in, maybe something like that. I know compliance is hard probably on that, but
right.
At least if we,
again, this is my opinion from just experience. In the past, when hats were not allowed, we had students that would wear hats almost on a daily basis. And we knew exactly which students those were. They were the same students every day. This year, when students wear hats, again, when there are students, we recognize who those students are because it's the same students that are wearing the same hats every day.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, of 150 students in a random study hall, there were about 8 or 9 students at all that had anything on. So this is not a high incident thing. Now, if we opened it up and made it become not just an allowance like we're doing this year, would more students wear hats? I'm not sure. But again, I go into church, I go into the mall, I go into all sorts of places all the time. I go into college classrooms, and I think it's more of an acceptable practice that's normalized, and other school districts like us in our area are entertaining the same adjustment in policies.
anything else for Mr. Pettit while he's here?
How far away are we from doing away with lockers altogether? Because I mean, it sounds like we're getting rid of textbooks pretty much universally moving forward with our curriculum stuff in favor of having it all digitally Chromebook. How much further before we can just kind of ditch lockers altogether?
Well, Dr. Lefnick and I have had some conversations over the years about the available space in the high school, and how, like you're saying, lockers are not used on nearly a regular enough basis. I think last year when we entered the pandemic and we cleared out the lockers of there's items that were left in there, it was about 15% of the lockers had anything in them at all. This was, remember, right before spring break, so it's not like students took all their stuff home. So that is available space in the building, and as we continue to evaluate our space needs, those don't just become classrooms automatically. That's a pretty significant capital investment. But I do agree with you, Mr. Krell, that the lockers right now are not used at nearly enough of a frequency to maybe justify the amount of space in the building they have.
And last one from me on the water bottles policy, it's only water is allowed. Are we talking bog standard tap and purified water? Are we talking they can put in propelled? Do we care?
So just real quick, just so everyone knows, these are actually the lockers and the water bottle are under the junior high student handbook, not in the high school part. And that is a little maybe confusing, but those are changes specifically coming from the junior high.
Thank you.
I guess the question still sits. I guess we.
Yeah, I can shoot that towards
Okay.
Mr. Daly and Mr. Bartles.
I mean, if kids want to put Propel in their water bottlers or Simply Clear or whatever the Canadian flavored water is, that's fine with me. I just want to make sure that we don't have someone that misinterprets what water is. And yes, I did hear myself say that.
H2O.
Anything else for Mr. Pettit while he's here?
No.
Mrs. Christensen, do you have anything else or?
That's it.
That's good. Nice.
Thank you.
One
Thank-
quick question.
One thing.
Yeah, now that we're back to this document. The health policy section with the COVID-19 change there, is that, I guess, is that up to current information that we have now? Like, does that apply still in the same way?
So I did speak with Amy Chebahar today, and knowing that this is a very fluid topic, that this is what she had proposed prior to the last several days news, but that we would move forward with this at this point. Now, just so that you know, Polk County is bringing groups together over the summer, and Amy is part of that. And she wanted to let you guys know that as more information becomes available to her through Polk County, we will keep you updated. And then hoping that maybe as we get closer to actually when school starts, that we know where everyone is standing, that we can then update that section of the handbooks. But at this point, it's what is current as of for right now for this year.
Okay, thank you.
Not hearing anything else. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeannie.
you. You bet. Thank you.
All right, we are at 3D Ram Camp 2021 update.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Good evening again, board. I wanted to give you an update in regards to summer school plans for as the school year concludes and we move into our summer months. As I shared at a meeting earlier in April, we have summer school planned for grades 6 through 12. It will be a combination. 6, 7, and 8 are doing a hybrid model of on-site and online, and high school is implementing a credit recovery model that is fully online. Because of the COVID pandemic, we looked this year for the first time at having a district summer school, and so started to put some of those measures into place. And I wanted to give you an update tonight on where we are. So Mr. Bacom had mentioned about some of the ESSER funds and how those will be coming into the district. And while we're still putting parameters around those funds, we know that some of them specifically are earmarked for learning recovery. So as we move into learning recovery, I think it will be really important to be mindful of how we define the challenge ahead of us, because how we define it will frame our approach. So I think if we constantly hear, we're behind, we're behind, we're behind, we will rush really fast to make things up. And we know that what has been missed during this past year plus can't be made up in just a summer school session or a month when we come back to school. This will be a long-term effort. So again, how we frame it will help us, or how we define it will help us frame it. And I also want to say that teachers are no strangers to kids coming in the fall with skill gaps. That happens every single year. I do think COVID magnifies those skill gaps. And so we will have to have some more intentional measures in place to help students recover learning from these past year plus. So summer school is a start to that, and we are excited about that. As you remember from last time, we did some research on effective summer schools, and these are the variables that had more positive results. So it will be a full day. We will be providing breakfast and lunch and transportation. And we had a summer school leadership meeting this morning, and Amy Ahern shared that not only will they get breakfast and lunch each day, but they will get weekend meals as well that they can take home with them. Those will be available to all students, but they will distribute those at summer school. The AM of summer school will have an academic focus specifically on English language arts and math. And in the PM, we're doing more of a camp or a club focus, looking at things like STEM, arts and crafts, etc. You can see the variety of club ideas that have been generated by teachers. It will be 1 month in duration, beginning on July 12th and ending August 6th. And the elementary summer school, we are inviting students who are currently in grades kindergarten through 5th. So they will be going into grades 1st through 6th. We did prioritize invitations. We had spreadsheets with the variables of criteria. Teacher teams filled out those criteria sheets and then generated a list of priority invitations that were sent out at the district level. We are capping each section at 15 students. We know that that size of group will allow us to get to the focus that each student will need in order to recover some of their learning. So our current status for elementary is we have 125 students registered. Just between when I did this and now it's up to about 130. We did do a second round of invitations that ends tomorrow. So we're up to about 130. We have 21 teachers who have signed up to teach. Some of them are partnering together, but we do have 21 teachers that we will be working with. We will be having 2 sections of kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So getting that early, the younger emphasis. And so we'll have spots for 30 kids for each of those grade levels. And we will have 1 section each of 4th and 5th grade. And those are currently full. We have 15 in both of those. We do have leadership meetings, and we had one this morning. We meet with, again, transportation, food service, curriculum coordinators, special education, and review that. And we're also having partnerships with Facebook and the Science Center. We have a specific emphasis this summer on STEM. Facebook will be helping provide some of the materials for students to engage in STEM activities. And the Science Center will be coming out to our camp to provide experiences for kids. And then all students, 1st grade going into 2nd, will have an early STEM experience at the Science Center. So we will be having a field trip to the Science Center during one of our camp days. The other thing I want to say is we're wrapping it around some of the summer things we currently have. So 5th going into 6th have mission transition. So that has been moved to the afternoon, and that will become one of the camps for any of the 5th going into 6th grade students in summer school. With the number of with the number of teachers that we have, we will be having it at 1 site this summer, and that will be at Centennial Elementary. Clay Elementary will be having extended school year for special education. Willowbrook will have Kids Club, and we will have summer school at Centennial. We opted not to have things at buildings that we're going to have brand new principals. So that'll be next year. So that will be at Centennial. We will be having, we'll be looking for some teacher leaders who might be looking at administrative programs to help with some of the coordination of summer school. We will also have a secretary and a school nurse to dispense medication and provide any nursing services for students. And again, I had mentioned the partnerships with Facebook and the Science Center. So our next step, the final registration, we do need to close it tomorrow. You know, to get the transportation and everything ready, we will be closing it tomorrow. And after that, we will meet with teachers. We have a process by which we will be looking at data for each individual student. Mr. Taylor will add any special education information. Lori Wyatt will add any English learner information, health concerns. Amy Ahern adds any food allergies. So each student will have a pretty comprehensive, we'll have data for the teachers coming in to show what their needs are and know how we can address some of their summer programming. Dan and Ashley are currently working on transportation routes for the students. They had an option to sign up for transportation. Not all of them did, but several of them did. So currently working on some of those routes. And then we're also working with our partners, specifically Facebook, on any materials and supplies, specifically for the camps in the afternoon that the students might need for more hands-on activities and things that they can do. Every teacher who has signed up to teach will have 8 hours of planning time between now and July 12th when it starts. And so during these times, we will be meeting with different curriculum leaders to help them plan for instruction. And then they'll have opportunities to plan with a collaborative team as well to be able to plan that instruction. So this is our first attempt at this. We are looking forward to it. It's a new endeavor. Already we've identified some things that we'll put into place because, again, this is as a result of COVID, but I think as we move into the future to address those skill gaps, having extended learning opportunities across the school year, before school, after school, working with families to find out what the best options are to work on those skill gaps that any students might have. So we're looking forward to it. We'll learn a lot from this experience, and we are anxious to work with the kids and advance their learning.
Wonderful. Any questions for Dr. Latham?
No. How was capacity determined for this? Was this just like based upon like how many teachers we had?
Yeah, so we started with looking at the research and knowing that 1 to 15 ratio seemed to be the sweet spot. So we set that as a target, and we started with a first round of priority invitations. And at the same time, we put on the job board the summer school application. So then once we knew how many teachers we had, then we could finalize the sections and then cap them as needed.
Perfect. Awesome.
I think this is excellent. I'm glad we're doing it. I think it'll be well received. I know it's a lot of work, but thank you for putting this together.
We think it'll be a good thing for kids, so we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Super exciting.
All right. Nothing else for Dr. Latham? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. 3E, 6-7 building construction. Sorry to make you guys wait so long.
That's all right. I just said the same thing.
Sure.
So we've been working with FRK and White's on the design phase of the 6-7 building project. And some of the things, just to take you back very quickly through it, that committee work to identify priorities, schematic design work. We've gone through one round of user group meetings to flesh out and refine those designs. The second round will happen next week. At the same time, we've acquired land for the site. started the whole process for the siding piece. And as we've been refining this project schedule, it's become apparent that there are some major obstacles that are mostly out of our control that will likely have an effect on the overall project schedule and eventually potentially the ultimate finish date. So we have representatives here tonight from both FRK and Whites to talk a little bit more about those items, how they may play a role, what our options are moving forward, and where we go at this point. So I will turn it over right now, and if you guys can just kind of introduce yourself as you speak for the board's sake.
Hi, hey, I'm BJ Frieders. I work for the Whites Company. I'm a senior pre-construction manager for them. So my role is I help owners at the front end of projects and get you all the way through the design, get to the right budget, the right scope for you guys, and make sure it's set up for the actual construction of the project.
I'm Vince Ward. I'm also from Whites, and I work together with BJ as kind of a project executive role of oversight for the project.
Tom Wallen with FRK, principal of the firm, and John Darvo and others in our office are leading the design team effort for the project, along with Modus Engineering and Bishop Engineering as their civil consultant.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So as Dirk was mentioning, we've had a lot of work that's happened so far on the project, and when we first got brought on board, there was a schedule that was put out there, a fairly aggressive one, to get us to make sure that we were moved in by the 23-24 school year. And there's been a variety of things that have happened that have been a bit out of our control that have happened. So there's two main drivers. One, the design hasn't been able to move forward as fast as originally anticipated for a variety of reasons. And then the other issue is material procurement for some specific items on your project have gotten completely off the rails as far as what it takes to get them. And I can certainly go into the details on what all that entails, but what you end up with these two issues is that we have a problem that it's difficult to overcome both issues. One of each, I think we could overcome. Both is a problem to confidently say that we would have a good product for you at the right time frame to allow school to occur in the building on the starting for the 23-24 school year. There's just a lot of things going on. I'll just give you an example. A job that you have here requires a lot of steel material. Steel joists and decking is a common component of these buildings. In normal times, it would take 12 to 14 weeks to get. Today, it takes you 10 months. And it takes a bit of a crystal ball to understand what's going to be happening as we actually get to the point of bidding the project, because we are a few months out and it's a constantly fluctuating situation. But everything we're hearing from all of our industry economists and just local suppliers, national suppliers, is that we're not going to get significantly better on this issue anytime soon. So it feels prudent to me that we need to plan accordingly, as opposed to moving forward assuming that things are going to just get better really quick and put ourselves in a position that I don't think any of us want to be in. So that's really the message that I have for you today, is that we're just in a very, very uncommon time in regards to construction material procurement. And it's every day it's something else. Like I said, for your project, the steel joist and decking is the major issue. If we got started, we would sit around and wait for months for that material to show up, which is just time that you don't have to actually build what you need to build. So I guess with that, I would ask what questions you would have of me, because I know that's kind of a lot to unload on you.
So after the last discussion we had, obviously we want it done right and we want quality product and stuff. So how's the cost affected on, if we order like now, but we delay it till 2024? And I don't hear you saying that we have to delay it that long, but does that play in the cost? If we order the stuff now, we're just on a delay, right? It's not a cost factor on that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, costs have been going a little out of whack on some materials as well, along with the procurement. But yeah, you would essentially be ordering it now, or, once we have all the documents ready.
Sure.
And it would just take longer to get, but you're locked into that cost at the beginning of that, say, that 10-month time frame for, the steel material.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, no, I just think, I guess this is more for the administration. I guess I mean, our plan obviously is 2023. I mean, we would love it, but I think we can live a year to get a quality project done and make sure that we're not rushing it, which it doesn't sound like it'd be rushed if it takes that long to get product, but yeah, you don't want to start a project and then have to wait. And so would that put a big damper into and I think you and I talked about another option, but what's more feasible, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's several moving parts here, and because we're talking about a major restructure of our grade alignment, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, anything that wouldn't line up with the beginning of the school year, I think makes it very difficult. You've got staffing, kids. I mean, there's just so many moving parts there. It makes my head hurt trying to imagine how that could actually work. Now, can we have contingency theories regarding that? Absolutely. But I would lean towards kind of the direction that you just kind of said, that my recommendation is that we do this right, and that there's not a rush. There are things we could do. They could tell us some things we could do that would involve substantial risk. We talked change orders for quite a while earlier. Big risks like that. And it still may not ensure that August 23 timeline is met, just based on the things that we have absolutely no control over because of the procurement issues. So I think that's what you're asking me. And so
I would say it's better to wait until that 2024 school year. And so obviously the plan would actually start digging would have been what day did we have set now?
So we're still a little bit up in the air on that. To Dirk's point, there's still some things that we have to get figured out, and we got to figure out the right path, risk versus getting everything ready. So there's the potential that we could bid out a grading package for some earth moving this fall. There's some things we don't know about the site yet, the soil types, and there's settlement timelines. I'm getting kind of into the weeds of construction stuff, but finding more out about that will allow us to know, do we need to move dirt this fall or do we wait until the spring? So it's kind of one of those two timelines to actually get going, and we've got to get more info. We're still a little early in the process. As soon as we get that info, we can make educated decisions on how to move forward.
And so I guess this is probably the architect question or design. I know we've got some other things in the works with some land surrounding that. As far as the building location, if for some reason we were to obtain that other land, does that change the layout of where we would put the building? Or are you comfortable with, no matter what land we have, the building's going to go in this exact location no matter what?
Yes, thank you for that question. Sorry, I should be talking to this. We really appreciate the district efforts, Dirk and Kevin administration, on moving aggressively and acquiring that land. And we have the building, I think, fits where it's going to make the most sense, whether you have that quadrant or not.
Okay.
There's a couple of slight adjustments that we can make pending that. We were a little reluctant to show any of that publicly tonight just because of sensitivity about those things. But I think we're very, very close to what the site will look like. So it's a matter, as BJ was indicating, learning more about that particular site. We don't want to call out the geotechnical engineer to do soil borings till we have that site locked in for
Yeah.
sure and know exactly where to put those borings. And we are trusting that the soil will be in good shape for us. One of the things the professionals do that kind of thing, your civil engineer who did your site survey for you, you're very familiar with Bishop Engineering. They're really good to work with and know their stuff. Alan Urbutsky is the geotechnical engineer. They do advanced studies and historical studies of property to feel fairly confident that it's not going to be some abandoned coal mines or there's not going to be some issues there. So we're comfortable that the site will yield, but in terms of how much consolidation time for the building pad and some of those things, we're not quite sure yet, but we're very close to that.
Okay, and that was part of the question is, obviously, if we're gonna wait, we tried to obtain that if that would buy some time, but it doesn't sound like, which that's probably a good thing. That
Two questions. So I guess the first question, you mentioned there are also some delays in the design piece of this at this point in time. What type of delays are we running into there? Is it just coming up with what the general design is, or how does that function?
Tom, I'd let you answer
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. So again, many thanks to the district and making district personnel available. So we have been, we went through a very intensive visioning process right toward the end of this past year, and then began to develop some schemes and some ideas. So working in conjunction with figuring out what the land was going to be and how the building would sit on that land and the orientation, and gathering that information. COVID doesn't make it any easier. Kudos to the district. We did a lot of Zoom meetings and got that information. I think that was something that just didn't help move that design as fast as we would like to have moved. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball. We were originally hoping to be able to hit the streets with the documents at the end of August. One of the schedules that White's has come up with is maybe a month after that. So we're still getting close to that target. So we can make up a lot of ground now that we have more solid information about the site. And we have solid information from district personnel. So one of the key things also then is just what impacts us in thinking about design and materials. And you have a great partner with the district, with White's. They're helping us understand, gosh, with procurement of materials, is it really better to maybe use precast exterior walls? Because that's going to be a little bit more readily available. So they're helping us understand from a design side what materials are going to be the best to expedite that and to not have those kinds of delays. You perhaps had those similar conversations with the other design team for your stadium to help you understand that as well. So I think there's a lot of things folding together, but this summer we'll make up ground on the design for sure, and move forward on that.
So I guess my second question would be, without doing things, so you talk about the timeframe changes based on the amount of risk that we're willing to endure, so on and so forth. Moderate without trying to go over the top. What would be like a bingo gate where we knew if we're not operational by this, we'd have to push it back the full year? Does that make sense?
As far as when would the building have to be done to allow move-in?
No. If we have not completed the process to get the ball rolling in actual forward motion, if we haven't done that by this date, we're going to have to look past and move back to 2024, 2025. Does that make sense?
I believe so, and I bear with me. I may not answer this with what you're asking, but as Dirk mentioned, we've looked at all kinds of different ways on how we can speed everything up. And one of the things we did talk about was trying to complete the design of part of the building, namely a structural package, early. So that way we could start that 10-month procurement timeline on the steel sooner to bring the schedule back in. And unfortunately, when you look at all the cascading effects of moving that design ahead when the rest of it isn't ready for it, there's all kinds of things that have the potential to change after you've bid it out that now are change orders, which just inherently cost you a percentage more money than it would if it were just right the first time. So that's probably the biggest thing. And then there's always a chance for issues with procurement of things that have changed now that, you start that time frame again. And so it's not an ideal situation at all, is what I would tell you. But we certainly have talked numerous times about what are the ways we can make this still happen with the roadblocks we have in front of us at the moment. And I think it's fair to say from this side of the table, we just feel that there's a significant risk to the district that we don't necessarily believe is the right decision for you. Ultimately, it's your decision.
And obviously, I appreciate looking into different options, the preformed walls versus all steel. Is that, I'm guessing some of the discussion piece.
Direction time and yeah, those kind of things.
And I guess I'm one of those that usually if you have a plan in mind, and you might as well stick with that plan, because if we change, then we're going to be like, I wish we would have done this. So I'm for waiting as long as it doesn't change. I mean, it's not like we're growing leaps and bounds. We're growing just leaps right now, which we are building this for. So it's not like we need it, but we can't wait a year is not going to make a difference, I don't think. And of course I'm one board member, but I would say if we're looking for steel, let's wait for steel. Let's make sure it's what we want or what we planned on, unless it's better quality. That you can't argue with better quality for the same price.
I'm in the same boat you are, Brett, that if trying to completely reorganize, like you said earlier, Dirk, our grade structures for 6, 7, and 8, 9 in the middle of, if we're not doing it in the summer, I don't think we can do it at all. Transportation alone is going to be a nightmare if we're trying to do something mid-year or mid-semester, or just no. So I think that's kind of why I was asking when the kill date was, where, we cannot move forward with these timeframes, because if we get anywhere near that, I think it's better to just readjust our plan and move forward with it to opening the year later. So.
Vince, you have something?
I just think it's worth mentioning that the site is one of those components that I feel like is constantly underestimated of the impact that it has as far as what we learn from the geotech reports. Fancy terms for how much weight can we put on the soil without enhancing it, without letting it sit and compacting, what's the cut and fill, and FRK is ready to push that out the door and get that going and set for you to get moving. And when we get that information, it's going to be so telling of what the real issue is up front. And I don't think any answer solves the things we're talking about, but it could only verify potentially some of the potential issues that we're having, because there's just so many things that you can encounter during this on a site that just looks perfectly innocent. And so that's going to give you a lot of information and a lot more clarity on maybe what those first steps are. But I agree. I think that the unfortunate part is that when we talk about items that have to happen in a certain order during construction, there are components that even if you do them early, don't necessarily help you a great deal given the order of what that would be. So those are the things that we're looking at. I can tell you BJ has put together multiple scenarios to address and try to find a way with FRK towards that first timeline that we've been talking through. But as soon as we saw that we saw issues, we wanted to get in front of the board and discuss with the district what the plan is moving ahead. Offer you any amount of detail you want regarding what those optional plans are. BJ's just kind of touched on them, but this isn't something that we've taken lightly or have just said, oh, I can't do it. So it'd be a lot easier to do in a year. I think the interesting thing in this scenario is that you would think, well, okay, well, we'll see you guys in a year. and we'll pick this thing back up. It's actually not going to look a lot different, even though it's going to be pushed a year in completion. And we'll continue plowing forward with design, plowing forward with our plan to get this done. It's just an adjustment in schedule that really hits you on the back end more so than the front. So I can tell you it won't look a lot different in the front side because we're just going to keep moving ahead with what we're doing.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I mean, I obviously said it a little bit different. I'm not sure where Adam's on it, if he's for the delay. I'm for doing what you gotta do. I guess I'm saying if you have to, get in a spot and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're waiting 22 months for steel. And then you sit there and then the project, where there's no movement, I guess is, but yeah, I'm interested in seeing what other options there are by all means, as long as they're quality products. And I hope I made that understandable. I guess that, yeah, I'm not opposed to, let's do poured foundations versus steel. If it's, not going to cost us anymore and it's still quality and we can get without, causing big issues. Because yeah, change orders are not, I'm not a fan of change orders unless they're absolutely necessary.
We just can't stress enough that, I'm not, believe it or not, I didn't just graduate a couple years ago. I've been out in a while. These are unprecedented times for building materials. I can tell you, if you go buy a 2x4 at Menards, you cannot believe what one costs. I mean, it's 3 to 4 times what they were 12 months ago. And it's just staggering when you think about the impact when you layer that against all your building products on a project of this scale. But we're hoping there's a leveling out at some point, and that maybe there's a correction. We feel that we're at the pinnacle peak right now, and we don't know if it's going to continue going, but we know that it's really at a critical time right now of not such a positive piece. So, we've got projects going right now that in BJ's schedules that are going to have the walls built, steel in place, no roof, because you can't get roof insulation. So it's going to sit open for 2 months. And that's just the reality of what's going to happen there. And bearing something, following the schedule we're being told over and over again, will happen. So you're in the fortunate position to be able to make this decision now and not be halfway through and having to encounter some of these things. So hopefully that foresight will be a benefit to the district.
I look forward to what you have to bring to the table. So appreciate the work that you're doing.
I do want to throw this in there, especially while they're sitting here, just to keep the pressure on them. As we're talking about this year, I want to be clear. What I mean is the full scale programmatic alignment change for us, we would be looking at a year, but I'm still fully expecting that building to be ready before a full year's difference, or certainly hoping for us to continue to do that so that we could possibly occupy that in some form. And those are things we can talk about down the road of what that could look like. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
I didn't follow that.
So let's say that instead of being ready in August of 23, maybe it's ready in November of 23. And I just made that date up.
Yeah.
BJ might fall out of his chair.
He's like, no.
I made that up.
He's looking red. It's not good.
January 24. How's that? Whatever. But who's to say then we couldn't potentially say, take our 6th grade students from Spring Creek and start them into that building during the second semester, start to occupy that building, utilize something like that. So, I mean, those are the things where I'm saying we'll have options, and we're kind of working through what those might be. And obviously it'll be up to you how we move forward with that. But there will be some options there. I'm not ready to cut and give a full year away. That's what I'm saying out loud.
I like that idea. Sorry. Just because I'm on the same kind of wavelength as far as, just keep moving forward, do what we can, and just make this thing as efficient and time crunch as we can. So while still doing it responsibly. So absolutely.
On the design team side, that's our intent. We've scheduled our folks just to keep pushing really hard to get this design put together and give information to the White's Corporation that they need. So,
Yeah, I like
So-
when you guys said keep plowing ahead. It's like, yep, let's keep, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and as far as the site itself, there have been like samples done, right? Which I know is probably, I mean, hasn't that's occurred?
We haven't released the geotechnical engineers out on the scene yet
Okay,
until we know exactly where that building.
I
wants to be.
see.
And then they also will test where the parking and site.
All right.
Flat work will be.
There was some kind of initial something done.
Yeah,
wasn't
that
there?
initial study.
Mr. Fisher, yes. Mr. Fisher, as part of our due diligence, we did a phase 1 environment.
That's what,
And that
yes,
has been done, correct?
That's right.
right.
Thank you.
Got it. This would be the full detail. This is where it's going. This is where we're putting these substances. Yeah. Understand that there might be, like you say, and it looks innocent, but who knows?
Well, the interesting thing is you'll have variation across the site,
Sure.
you know, potentially. And you want to have those borings where you're going to have your weight and your
Right.
footings. So getting that plan set and having it in the right locations, because the borings, it costs you money every boring you take.
Right.
So you want to make sure they're in the right places and
Do it
getting you the
once.
information you need. So that's the reason you just can't run out, and you could and just go out and do a 10-foot grid on the whole site, but it'd be very costly,
Right.
you know, for something that
Well, thank you.
you know you really don't need. So
And you
that's
still missed
why
the
that
one that was 5 feet between them.
You're right, yes.
yeah.
So I've got a couple of questions. What I've heard is we don't think that we're gonna make the 23 school year, like the beginning of the school year at this point. Do we have any idea on what that new schedule look like? Or are we just kind of in a holding pattern right now as we figure out the design details and then put bids out, and see where we land?
So the answer is kind of. And what I would say for that is, so what has been mentioned before, we have to know more about this site, specifically settlement timelines, because that matters, that pushes things. So once we know that, that takes one variable off the board. And then the other variable that we have is just what is our critical procurement items? What time frame are they at the time of bid when you can actually lock it in? It's fluctuating so much right now. I make assumptions in the schedules that I put together on, you know, here's what it is today. Here's what I think it's going to be when we go out to bid. So to truly know a date, we're going to have to rely on some of that. And normally I would never tell you that because everything is so consistent on when you can get it. And it's just not that way right now. So we'll have a really good idea here after the soil information is provided to us, but there's still going to be a little bit of fluctuation there depending on this material procurement that could move it a month, maybe 2 months, either way. Okay, so, and I know that's not great for Dirk and team, but we will know before we get started, like actually go out to bid, what that time frame would be for the end. There will absolutely be a date and everybody has to meet it, but it's based on reality, not just me saying you have to be done that date. It's going to be based on, okay, I know what it takes to get this material now. So you're putting that into the schedule that you're forcing everybody to commit to when they submit a bid.
Yeah, I think so. So basically we need to go out and dig some holes.
Yep.
And, well, we need to figure out exactly where it's going to sit and then dig some holes. And once we get that done, then we're at a point where we can put bids out. And then part of that would be confirming the timeline. So we could plan for potentially, if we're done in November, December, whatever, moving, say, the 6th grade over, we could know that far enough in advance that we could plan for it.
Yeah, because you would generally know, you know, it generally will take 2 years to build this project, you know, give or take. So you would know in that much time in advance to be able to start making your decisions on how you want to start utilizing the building based on what that end date is.
Okay. And as far as the cost, the lumber example kind of hit home because I was talking to my builder about maybe adding a deck, and he was like, you'd be better off pouring concrete and like, don't even bother.
Yeah, imagine not.
So, I mean, for this building is a pretty big project. Are we looking at a huge increase in cost from where we thought we would be originally, or do we have any idea on that?
You know, there's no doubt that material costs have gone up on all kinds of items. What we don't have is we're currently doing our first estimate that's based off of something. You know, we've got a schematic set of drawings from FRK. So this will be the first time that at least the Whites Company has put a price on it. Now, if we would have done a pricing exercise 6 months ago, absolutely, it's going to be more now than it was 6 months ago. But to tell you exactly how much a percentage, I can't really tell you with that, having not done that. So the real question is, from today until it goes out to bid at the end of the year, what's that price difference going to be? And how are we going to account for that as we put our budgets together and, know this is how much money we want to spend? That's going to be the real key on how do we identify that. And that's just part of the job at this point, is figuring that out.
We don't know if we're at the peak or if it's going to go up a little bit more, if it's
So,
going to.
yeah, I mean, I've sat on so many webinars with industry economists that, through our AGC, Association of General Contractors, it's a nationwide industry, or in any event, the economists as of last month were telling us that the expectation is that in the fourth quarter of this year that we should either see it be leveling off or going down. The caveat is 3 months before that, I sat through one of these things and it was at third quarter. It was supposed to be leveling off and going down. So it's really crystal ball stuff. You can be the smartest economist in the world, but that doesn't mean you know exactly what's going to happen. But my hope and my assumption at this point is at the time we're actually bidding and locking in all these numbers, that we're going to be on the downhill slide of this and we're missing the peak. I can't promise you that, but that's what's being told to me.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Whites?
I would just throw in there, you can tell just from this conversation that we're in good hands. Both of these groups have been extremely responsive, and we're very happy with that. And I look forward to continue to work through this, as complicated as it is. I have confidence that we'll get through this.
Well, thanks for your time tonight, and appreciate you coming out.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Just a couple things before we adjourn. First one, future meetings. Sounds like our next meeting will be open to the public, kind of business as usual. But we need to know, do you guys have a desire for Zoom and what's the other one? YouTube, or do you want to just do YouTube? There is a cost to the Zoom. Jason can kind of talk about that, but it sounds like it's not a big cost, so we can go month to month. We can go a few months out, maybe. It's not like we pay for it a year. So do you guys have a preference on that?
I'm cheap. I like free.
Yeah, I think YouTube's fine. We can always have people call.
As long as we
in.
have a streaming service.
I definitely like the fact of being online.
Oh, well, that's a big deal.
They can come in though.
Or they can just call and we can put them on speakerphone.
They can come sit down.
Would it make
I
sense
do.
to-
You got a cell phone right here.
I do like Zoom because, and I didn't know that we could do it. I wouldn't want to get in a big habit of it, but it is nice if
Lori was able to participate tonight.
yeah,
for
if
it.
somebody, or even one of the admin, if they're homesick,
Oh.
they're, whatever reason, or they're on a cruise or whatever, they can, if they wanted to join in, they could. I don't know who.
Can you
Go on
project on
cruise, but-
these, on the smart clever touches?
Um,
So can you project? Can you hook up a device and project onto it?
Yes.
Like a Chromecast.
Well, I'm thinking like if you have an iPad that you could do that, you could FaceTime and just do the same thing for free.
I think we want it consistent, probably.
We actually, we got other places to spend
Should
money.
we like take a few months to transition and see how it goes
Yeah.
versus just cutting it
I think
off?
that's it,
there?
yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the question is, are you good with extending month to month here and see how
I
the
am.
Zoom and stuff go? And then
Yep.
we'll see how many people, it's usually a rip snorting good time because we have this place just packed when it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
open, that there's no room to move, which I doubt
That's
that.
true. That's true.
Yeah,
Control
so-
the overflow.
Which I'm glad. Zoom has been really nice, and YouTube, I think for me, even though the circumstances was a little different this year. It does allow people to sit at home, listen, and get involved. And that's the problem that we've had in the past. So I would like to continue something electronically. The more
I would
people that-
too. I think it's a good communication
Yeah.
piece.
Okay. Yeah, so
Sounds
there's
good.
nothing we have to vote on. It's just more giving them direction of kind of keeping Zoom or not keeping Zoom. And so I think we got a consensus to keep Zoom for a
Zoom,
few more
Zoom.
months and see how we go. And is that something that, well, I guess we've only got 2 meetings in June and July. Is it worth paying that money for those 2 months? And I mean, it's kind of,
Every
Yeah.
meeting counts, Brett.
that's true. All right, never mind.
Anything else? for
Forget the
thoughts?
man behind the curtain.
Yes.
One other
One more.
thing, since Jordan was not here last meeting, I just want to take the time to thank you for your service this year as the student council president and for attending all our meetings. I was able to thank Patrick last. I'm sure he passed it on to you, but now that you are here, we can do it in person. So thank you for everything that you've done this school year. Good luck in future endeavors. I'm not, what school? I know we've talked about this. You've told me, but
Back and then I'm gonna transfer to Iowa.
that's right. Yeah. So,
Nice.
so good luck. Congratulations on your last day. It's a little bittersweet, I know, for my son as well. So a little more sweet than bitter, but
Yeah, mostly sweet.
Now-
so, and I don't want to be the only one, but as we go around, anything else for Jordan? Anything other topic?
Yeah, I would just say we've appreciated you being here and providing input. I mean, this last year has been crazy for everybody, and it's good to have a student that we can hear from. So that's been awesome. And I guess at least for the next few months, if you want to join in through Zoom.
Yeah,
you can
come on in.
I know you'll,
Hey,
you will
can
miss
come back
us. You will miss us, these crazy conversations.
Hey, as long as we have a Zoom, we don't.
As long as you have a what?
I said, as long as we have a Zoom, but it sounds like we're having.
Oh, I thought you said you were gonna wear a sombrero.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, thank you.
Stand on that.